Hey everyone, welcome back. So in the last episode you saw we got some miles on the car. In this episode we're gonna put some more miles in the car. We're gonna do some oil changes, we're gonna fix a couple things, we're gonna break a couple things, we're gonna install the new hitch on the tow vehicle, we're going to make some camper tie down brackets because we installed the new hitch on the tow vehicle, and we're gonna do a few more things. So join me.
All right, so let's dive right in. In the last video, we discovered there was definitely some metal in the oil, pretty normal for a new engine. So we drove another 50 miles. We're gonna drain that oil out, see what it looks like, cut the filter open. I'm also gonna do a compression test, just kind of give the car a once over.
All right, riddle me this, Batman. Here is the front driver's side, and in order as they go back, okay. Same, rear passenger, okay, sure. WTF. I could just jump up and down. I'm so excited about that. I don't know what that means. We're gonna do a compression test. We're gonna see if that tells us anything. I checked this cylinder when I was out driving and it was the same temperature as all the other ones. So I don't know. I mean, that indicates to me too much fuel, right? Hello. But wow, like how is that possible? A stuck injector or something on just coincidentally the cylinder I've had issues with forever. Yeah, I'll get back to you once I get the compression test done.
So we did the compression test. Every one of them's around 150. Basically doesn't tell me anything. So we're just gonna keep rolling.
All right, so this is the second oil change. When I drained it, I did see a little bit of metallic swirl to it. So we're just gonna try and stir it up here and see if we can get some of that to come to the surface so you can see. There is definitely a lot less than there was last time. So if you can even see, it's minimal, but it is there. Whereas before you literally couldn't get away from it. It was everywhere. Stir my coffee here. Now you can see it a little. So we'll cut the filter open, see what that looks like, but I'm guessing it's gonna be pretty good. All right, so here's filter 2. So let's get this thing cut open, take a look here. Again, if you don't have one of these tools, I asked for one for Christmas because I don't usually buy like super specialized tools like this for myself. I just make do with the garbage I had before, but this really is worth the money. Oh, it's much, much cleaner. Let's do a pour here. We got some flakes. Definitely getting a lot of sparkles out of the filter there. Where is this guy? Yeah, it's just like a piece of plastic they use to glue the filter media in. Kind of weird. All right, let's get to cutting. I'll just tell you if I find anything big, huh? So far, that's the biggest piece I've found, and if that's not bearing material, I don't know what is. But we'll put it there and see if it's ferrous. All right, well, we'll clean the hands and we'll do the magnet trick and we'll move on. That's just glitter dust in there, except for that one piece. Nope, that large piece was not ferrous. All right, hopefully you can see that. Let's see. I mean, there's some very small pieces there, but nothing you could even make out. It's just glitter. So we're good so far. So that makes me feel good. All right, sorry about the wind. We just drove about 60 miles. Had some slight issues. The car likes to buck a lot with this clutch. It's not super smooth, but it's a grabby clutch, so it's kind of to be expected. Had the AC on the whole way. Temps stayed in check. We did the second oil change right before we left. Very little glitter out of it. I was happy to see that. Once we get done with the museum, we're at the Air Museum here in Seattle. I'm gonna nut and bolt check everything, just make sure everything's tight. But otherwise, did great. All right, so we were headed home after our little adventure. And what do we have? A broken rear brake line. So up on top of that T there is where the line used to be. And as you can see, it snapped off. Started draining all the fluid out. So luckily I have a proportioning valve, so I screwed it all the way, but I guess it only reduces the rear by 57%. So I'm gonna have to go fill it, and then we got a cap on there that hopefully will slow the leak down. Bought some brake fluid. It's 10 o'clock at night. Should be fine. We'll see. So just a bit of an informational here. So this is the part that broke off, obviously. This is what it's supposed to look like. It was a pretty nice hose, honest. And then that is the knurl that, or the actual end that broke off. Now, they're not very big. This is a 3AN, right? So we're talking like 1/8 of an inch, maybe 1/4 of an inch. But anyways, I'm theorizing that what happened was when I took the shocks off and I was setting up the exhaust, I had the shocks all the way off and I jacked this thing up literally as high as it will go. Well, if you look there, and I think I'll have to revise this somehow, it looks like maybe that fitting got jammed straight up into the, what is that? That's a support bar for the shocks, goes on both sides. At the suspension's normal travel, I don't think it's gonna go that high. I have the car jacked up on the jack right now, and it's, you know, it's a good 3 inches away. So probably a 90 would be better here, but I mean, there's 2 inches there before it hits. So I think probably what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have to figure out a different place to put that. I have enough slack here that I could just move it over and point it kind of that way. So we'll see what I can figure out here. All right, well, until I can figure something else out, this is gonna have to do. So what we've done is we've just used an Adele clamp over on the left-hand side there, just dropped it down. I tried moving it from the center bolt over to this bolt, and I just didn't quite have enough slack on that side to feel comfortable doing that. So we have just kind of dropped it down a smidge. And it's already at an angle too, so even if it did contact, it still has space to move. Maybe another Adele clamp on this side just to keep it secure, but it's not going anywhere. It's stainless, so it's, you know, even if it rubs on something, it's gonna hurt the other thing, not it. So I'm feeling better about that. So we just need to bleed it and off we go. I made a little post online because I was getting some weird sounds out of my bypass valve on the supercharger. I had cut the nipple off thinking maybe that was the sound. It was just kind of reverberating through it. Didn't come out to be the issue. So I'll put the clip in here of what it sounds like. And now we're gonna do a test, right? So let's vacuum test, whoops. Let's vacuum test this thing, okay? Not holding vacuum at all. And it's like, well, is it supposed to hold vacuum right there? Let's try it on the new one. Sure enough, it is supposed to hold vacuum. And as you can see, that means the bypass wasn't doing what it was supposed to be doing. Interesting. Let's put this one in. And here we are with a new bypass. Finger on the port. Nothing happening. Good to go. Got the new hitch to install on the tow truck. I've never done this before, but directions say a novice could do it in an hour, professional in 30 minutes. So maybe somewhere right in the middle. So I got you on time lapse. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so you may have seen me struggling, so let me explain exactly what's going on here. So this is the frame rail here, this guy, and you put this plate up in there, right, to support the load. That's fine. Had that plate in there like I thought it would go. This bolt hole here is the one that's offending. So basically I got the plate in there, and then there's a little tiny hole right here. You get your fingers in. There's a little tiny hole here where you can get the bolt in. There's actually, if you see up in there, there's a hole right there. There's the same hole on the other side. So you get a bolt all the way through there. Well, by the time I finally got the bolt in there, it wouldn't go through the hole. And I'm like, what is going on? Is this thing not aligned? And I have it kind of loose, right? So the hitch will slide back and forth. Come to find out, the damn thing won't even go into the hole because the powder coating's too thick. So this whole time I've been fighting, trying to get this thing through the hole. It never would have fit anyways. That's why you check things, you know? It's just small stuff like that. So now I'm gonna drill it out. Luckily, I recently purchased this 9/16 drill bit. And if that doesn't do it, then I have a bit of a reamer. So we'll see which one works. But hopefully after that, we'll do the other side and in it goes. It's like some form of magic. We got her drilled. Bolt literally slid right in. So that's 20 minutes, 30 minutes wasted. Nice. so here's the situation. So we got the add-on hitch installed, no problems other than this one bolt. The other one actually went in just fine, which is great. The problem now is aftermarket camper hold down doesn't fit around the aftermarket hitch, which kind of makes sense. Right where it needs the bolt, there's just a giant rib here. So that's not going to work. But I talked to E-Trailer, and they said that there's a universal one that all you need is a 4x4 inch square, like around here, and you could get a universal one to bolt in. But what I'm thinking is I could cut all the stuff off of this, right? This is the right length, it's the right size tubing, and just weld a 1/4 inch plate on this side with 4 holes in it and make it go right there, which is exactly what the aftermarket kit does. So that might be what we do, because otherwise I'm not sure what we would do, and I don't want to not run one because it's kind of important. So yeah, gonna have to think about this. To try and close out the install, the lower hitch is tight, upper hitch is tight. I have the extension tubes on here. So basically the idea is we're gonna put a spacer between these two. We're gonna take a piece of metal and bend it over the top one, weld it to the top, put holes in it so you can put like a grade 8 bolt through it, and that'll probably do that in the front and the rear, maybe just the front. I'm not sure you need 2 on this length. But what that's gonna do is gonna tie the two together. We'll put the load on the bottom, and it'll pull from the top and the bottom, so that anytime, you know, there's too much for one or the other, they support each other. So I think that'll be sufficient. I mean, I don't even really need that with this particular hitch, because this thing's rated 17,000 pounds. And even with all the stuff I'll have in the trailer, the car, it still isn't gonna affect that hitch, because it only drops it by 1/3, I think, or even a half. Honestly, even a half would still be fine. So there we go, till I figure this part out and till I make those parts for the camper tie down. Task was getting the air conditioner working in this thing, so it wasn't working. It was a little low on Freon. I put 1 can in it, helped a little bit. Put 2 cans in it, working good. So we'll bring some with us just in case. Let's have a slow leak. It doesn't drive it very often. Okay, next on the list of things to do. So been driving around for a little while in the car, and every once in a while when it gets warm, it starts missing. A cylinder, 2 cylinders. There was a cylinder on the driver's side I know that was having some issues. I checked the spark plug wires, rerouted them. Seems like the front cylinder on the passenger side is having issues again, whatever that means. So what I have done, which I have not done to this point, brand new set of wires. So these are cut to length. They are the ICT billet ones. And while I'm sure they're fine, I went the extra mile and I got the fiberglass lined heat tubing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap every single one of these damn things in this heat tubing, and that should solidify no more burnt plug wires, because I know that one of the ones on the driver's side is burnt. Just the sheathing's cracked. I even have it in some heat tubing, but not this stuff. I'll show it to you when I get it out. But anyways, the insulation on the outside of the wire is cracked, so when you bend it, you can actually see the core. So it's probably arcing through that. So I'm going to replace that one. I'm going to replace the front cylinder, because I didn't get my whole order of the heat shrink tubing, or the heat wrap tubing. Anyways, I'm going to replace those 2 and just see if it helps. And if it doesn't, I'm going to replace all of them, which I'm going to do anyways. And then we'll see if that helps. And if that doesn't work, we'll start looking at coils. So there we go. All right, so we got the first wire out. So this is the rear wire on the driver's side. So I know this one was having some issues because it's the closest one to the header. It's kind of like really hard to route it away from the header. So I did the best I could. But I put this heat shrink, or keep calling it heat shrink, this heat wrap tubing. This stuff works okay, but when it sits up against something hot, it turns white, and then it transfers the heat. So basically what happened was, this was a brand new wire. And like I said, I routed it as best as I could. Where is it? It's on the other side. So right about there. All right, so boop, cracked. Might be arcing through there, probably is. It'll be a good backup, but as of right now, I'm not gonna use that one anymore. So that'll go in the spare pile, of which I have a few. So this is the one that I originally ran on the car, and I had actually safety wired it on the header bolt to keep it up out of the way, and that worked for a little while. But eventually, where is it? I was pretty sure this one was burned somewhere. It doesn't matter. Another spare. So start making some new ones and go from there. What a frustrating endeavor. So what I decided was, the one with the little crack in the shielding, it didn't go all the way through the shielding. It was just superficial. So what I said was, all right, I'm just gonna try a different end, put a 45 on this instead of a 90. I'm gonna put the heat shrink, or keep calling heat shrink, heat wrap, and then put it back in the car and see if that makes a difference. So I finally made one. I think the key, soapy water and compressed air with the wire in the vise. You put the wire in the vise, put compressed air on the actual end, on this end, and push at the same time. It's the only way I can really get it to work. So we'll see. All right, let's see if I can do this. So I shortened the throttle cable. I've checked everything multiple times. It seems like it's still missing a little bit, but it feels okay. Let's see how it feels on camera. It gets up and goes pretty good. That was third gear. All right, so because we installed the hitch on the truck, we have basically removed all the space for these camper tie downs. So we're gonna cut all these brackets off. We're gonna weld a flat plate on the back, and then we're gonna drill 4 holes on each side of the new hitch, and we're gonna bolt this on. So basically, I guess that I wouldn't normally drill holes in it, but Torque Lift themselves sell a universal camper tie down that actually does the same thing. It's like $400. I bought 2 plates for 40 bucks. So there's a pretty good savings, and I can just do it myself. So you're gonna see me cut these off, and then we'll tack the plate on, and then we'll go fit it, mark the holes, drill them, put everything in, should be good to go. As you saw, we got the brackets cut off, everything's looking pretty good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take them out there, I'm gonna fit everything up and just see how I want these bolted on. So these can go vertical like you would think, or they can go at an angle. I think maybe the angle might be better, but I have to compensate for that with the tube. So what I'm gonna do is mount these up into the receiver and then get it over onto the actual hitch itself and then mark it, and then we'll get it welded up. So we'll see that in a second. Here's an update. So we went and fit everything on the truck. Everything looks good at this angle. I know it looks weird, but that's how it's gonna be mounted. So we got her welded all the way around. I definitely think that's gonna hold. Wait. I ain't going anywhere. Nice. So as you saw, we got the first hole drilled here. This guy, obviously there's gonna be 4. So what I did was I put it back in there, bolted it up real tight. Come on, focus. And then I used a center punch. Have these different sized ones. All right, so put that in the hole, get it nice and squared up, and then you mark your holes for all 4. This one's gonna be kind of a pain because it's gonna be up in the fender well, but I think it'll still be all right. So just gotta drill those out, make sure it all fits, clean it off, paint it, and then we'll do the other side. Always remember, when drilling holes in very thick metal with very large drill bits and a decent amount of RPM, you gotta be careful. You know, sometimes it likes to bite. And then when it bites, it doesn't matter what's in the way, it's gonna smush it. Lots of smushing going on today. Almost there. Well, okay, I wouldn't call it complete, but you got the front tie down there, rear tie down. It will get a little sooty from all the exhaust, but it's fine. It's actually the same height as the other one. Maybe drop down a smidge, but I wanted to make sure it cleared the exhaust. So what we got here, as described, 4 holes all through. So I gotta take it off now and I gotta paint it. And I gotta paint that because I don't want that to rust either. And then work on the other side. Yay. You know, sometimes you surprise yourself with your own work. So I totally eyeballed these measurements and it came out pretty damn close, repeatability wise. So I'm gonna check this one, make sure that it fits. Pretty sure it will. The chain is a little bit shorter on the other side, so I'm gonna have to get a longer chain or an extension. But I just wanna make sure the angle and stuff's correct before I burn it in. But I mean, that's like a mirror. Nice. All right, I'm gonna make this short, getting eaten up by mosquitoes, but basically, there we are. So the extension piece welded in, it is at an angle as intended because torque lift says they need to be at an angle. So that's what we did. Got this guy here, same angle, bolted in, 6x6 plate. I think they're 5/16 thick. So this one is right at the exhaust, but I think it's gonna be just fine. So these are tensioned up. Good amount. So we'll see. So if these bend after this trip, what I'll do is I'll gusset probably 3 of the sides, right? Because there's not really much you can do on the bottom. Maybe I'll do 4 sides. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll keep an eye on them. They were flat when I put them in. Okay, done for the night.